Hey guys, it's Nathan from the Kentucky Cycling YouTube channel. Welcome to the next Zoom interview in the Kentucky Cycling Connection series. I'm excited to introduce my guest today, who is Craig Durkin from Wanderer. Craig, welcome.
Thanks, Nathan. Good
For
to be
those,
here.
excellent. So for those of you who may be unfamiliar with Wanderer, we'll get into a little more details later in the interview. But I just wanted to give just a little background. Just my understanding about it, Wanderer is a mapping service that utilizes your Strava data to track your unique road miles, which places the focus on exploring and seeing new places, which is something that's really near and dear to what I'm trying to do with the Kentucky Cycling Project. And I recently became a Wanderer user myself, so I reached out to Craig, and he kindly agreed to be interviewed. So, Craig, I thought we'd start with some personal background questions. Why don't you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself, including how you got into cycling?
Sure. I mean, I'm, probably like most of us, we've all been riding bikes since we were kids. And um, there's definitely a point where I kind of grew out of it. And then in my late teens, early 20s, I kind of rediscovered bikes again. It was like, oh yeah, like these are great. Why did I ever stop doing this? And it was a really, I don't know. It was just kind of a weird realization of like, oh, I can go places with this, and I don't have to bother my parents to give me a ride or whatever. And yeah, it just brought back a lot of really good feelings that you had as a kid exploring the neighborhood. I'm down in Atlanta. I was going to Georgia Tech, and it's your first year, you're away from home, you don't really know what you're doing there. And so I did not enjoy my first year at Georgia Tech. And after my first year, I left and I became a valet for 3 months to save up some money. And then I went and rode my bike around Spain
Oh, wow.
that fall. And yeah, it's just great. It just, I don't know, it brings feelings that you don't get any other way. Just kind of a not that worried about time, seeing what comes your way. And yeah,
So this Spain adventure, what were you? Would you say you're sort of bike packing? I mean, or how would you describe what you were doing?
it was kind of, I mean, I had a rack and panniers and was loaded down, but I would just stay in hostels every night. So it wasn't that rough of a thing, but just out all day on the bike.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, why Spain?
Touring.
Which would led you to Spain?
Primarily it was because I had a good friend who was studying abroad there. And so I knew I could kind of pop in, and have some local support, uh, here and there as I needed. Because it was also just, yeah, like a foreign country and different language, and yeah, a little scary at the time for sure.
Well, cool. So I kind of see some little entrance into how this might have fed your interest in doing what you're doing, but we'll get to the specifics and Wanderer a little bit later. So you mentioned that you live in Atlanta. Would you say you're a road bike, mountain bike, or gravel bike kind of guy?
Probably some combination of all three. I think my real passion lies with kind of, I don't know how to describe it. We have a Tuesday night mountain bike ride here, and there's this there's the premise that we operate on is that at night, all trails become mountain bike trails pretty much. And so okay, the park's closed during the day, that's fine, but at dark, 10 p.m., no one's going to be out there if you can go ride. And so it lets us kind of string together a lot of, yeah, parks and kind of just small little, we call them bandit trails, just little scrubby things next to the creek or whatever. And there's just this really, I don't know how to describe it, it's a really fun feeling that you get on there, because you'll be biking through some area that you're familiar with, and you'll turn off down this little path, and you'll be going for 10 minutes or so, and eventually you're totally lost. You have no idea where you are, but you know where you were 10 minutes ago. and then you'll pop out onto a street and just be like, what, like, how did we get here? And it's just a really fun feeling of being lost in the place where you live. Like,
Hmm.
just kind of like, oh, I didn't know that this connected like this, or I didn't know that this was here. And um, I'm sort of always seeking that feeling out, just like, whoa, like I didn't know this was here. And so I think that probably puts me more in the like mountain bike gravel zone, just
Yeah,
because
yeah.
when
It,
as soon as I see something like darting it back into the woods, I'm like, we got to go check that out. Like we got to see where that goes. And
so you're
um,
kind of an all road kind of guy who likes to
yeah,
explore, natural born
yeah,
explorer, sounds like.
yeah. You got to see where it goes.
Well, so sort of a fun question I like to ask folks is how many bikes do you currently own and what are they?
So I live with my girlfriend. That's changing. She's getting a new bike. Between us, I think we
You don't have to
have.
count hers. It'll sound like a more reasonable number.
Well, we have a tandem, so that'll count. We'll count that as a half. Um, Probably like five or six. But
5 or 6
yeah,
that are yours.
that are mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are they?
I've got two mountain bikes, a suspension, full suspension, and a hardtail. I've got two road bikes. I've got a folding bike that I've traveled with here and there. I've got an old hardtail mountain bike from the early 2000s. I've got just like an around town fixie, don't care too much about it.
And somebody asked me this question recently, and I'm going to preface this, which I don't think it's a fair question. But if you just had to, if you could only keep one of those, which one would you choose?
Oh, just I think like some sort of like hardtail mountain bike. Like they're just so much fun, and the technology these days is just like they're just pretty indestructible. Like you don't really have to worry about flats that much. You don't have to worry about brakes in the rain. Like I don't know, they're just kind of good for everything.
Well, good deal. So I gave a little introduction earlier, but how would you describe, turn our attention to Wanderer, how would you describe what Wanderer is to someone who wasn't familiar with the service?
Uh, I would describe it as a game for cyclists that's about going places you've never been before. And so the way that Wander started is I helped launch a nonprofit here in Atlanta called Concrete Jungle. And what we do is we go around the city and we pick fruit that's growing in people's yards and we donate it to local homeless shelters and food banks. We find ourselves in this position of sort of managing and tending this large urban orchard. And we've got like a big map of fruit trees on our website, probably like 3,000 or so trees, and all different varieties. And the thing that's kind of a pain in the butt about these trees is they're all different and no one tends them and they're just unpredictable. And so, it'll be July 12th and we need to plan an event for our volunteers. And the only way that we really know how to do that is to like go look at the trees and be like, okay, like this apple tree is fruiting really early this year. Great, let's try it. And looks like we can get some blackberries and like, oh, maybe figs are coming out a little early, like whatever. But like we have to go look at the trees. Now, being a Georgia Tech graduate, I always want to like come up with some kind of sensor that we can put in the tree or like go monitor trees with drones or whatever like that. But those are still quite a ways off. But so I spend a lot of time just like going around looking at trees in the city, trying to find new trees. And in Atlanta, we have this interstate called 285. That's kind of the unofficial boundary of the city. It's the perimeter, and you're either inside the perimeter, ITP, or you're OTP, and you do not want to be OTP. And so, yeah, there's like, it just kind of came up with this challenge of like, can I bike every road inside the perimeter? And depending on how you count, that's like somewhere between 3,300 and 4,000 something miles.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it's ridiculous, and it's like a silly goal. But the thing that like really motivated me about it, and that kind of kept me going, is that it's it's a different kind of goal. It's not like setting a PR that you'll never get again,
Mm-hmm.
or something, or winning a King of the Mountain that someone can take away from you. It's like this incremental thing that you can chip away at, and it's never going to go down. Like, you can sort of work through your neighborhood and work through the neighborhoods next to you and keep going, keep progressing. Before Wanderer was Wanderer, it was uh, this, I don't know what you'd call it, the art project or something called All of ITP, where I would lead group rides around um, places in Atlanta. And I would just take like a random chunk of somewhere in the city and say, hey, like, let's go check this out. We're going to just take this shape that I've drawn and go ride every single road inside of there, and kind of like mix it up, do like a different quadrant each time. And the thing that was kind of amazing about those rides was sort of like how normal it was in some ways, because when you live a place, you get used to it and you're like, this is my neighborhood and it's a good spot, and like I know where the grocery store is, and I got this like breakfast place I can walk to, and like, yeah, this is my good spot. And then you go someplace like totally different that you've never been to, it's still in your city, and you're like, oh, like this is actually pretty nice here too, I didn't even know it existed. Um and of course you like discover all kinds of strange historical stuff that's kind of, it's like hidden in plain sight. It just makes the place that you live come alive a little bit more.
So how did you go from these group rides to, I mean, so at that point in time where you're using Strava, I assume, Strava
Hmm.
data, and then
Yeah.
you're, but at what point in time did you say, hey, I want to be able to extend this to become a service that other people can use?
Yeah, so I was leading the group rides and just made kind of like a very basic app for ITP folks of like, hey, connect your Strava account and I'll do some processing on it, and ta-da, like you've ridden 32% of ITP roads. And I don't know, it just seemed like the next logical step. I think part of some of the motivation was that when I made the basic app, I put a leaderboard up there and people started competing on it. And
Playing
so you
upon
would,
people's competitive nature.
yeah, and so you would see people do these rides where like they're on some main street and they go down a dead end and then they come back and they go one block over and they go down a dead end and come back and do that like 6 times. And it's not it's not like an accidental type of ride. Like, these are very deliberate. And it kind of just made me realize that if cyclists like taking things too far, and if you give people a number, they're going to want to make it bigger. And
Yeah.
so it just seemed like the next natural conclusion of like, okay, like ITP has 3,300 miles, but Georgia has like 168,000. So let's
Yeah.
see if people are going to compete on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
What time period did this all evolve to become Wanderer to extend to the Earth?
oh, that was maybe like late 2018.
Okay.
I had built a bunch of the app very like Atlanta specific, and yeah, my like big dump of the road database is from late 2018. So right around there that I started expanding outward.
Well, cool. Does Wanderer only handle road miles?
Road miles are the things that it's maybe slightly biased towards, but that's just kind of a like data source thing. That all my data comes from OpenStreetMap, which is a lot like Wikipedia in some ways, in that it's like a map that anyone can edit. And both because of and in spite of that, it's actually like really good and very high quality. And I don't know if we see this as much in the US, but there's other parts of the world, like a lot of European countries, where its data is superior to what you would get from Google Maps that has like
Interesting.
a dedicated mapping team, all sorts of machine learning algorithms to automatically identify things from satellite imagery. Like, yeah, OpenStreetMap is solid. But I think because it's all volunteer driven, there's a tendency for roads to be in there more than mountain bike trails or paths, because people are looking at satellite imagery and drawing these things, and it's harder to draw trails because there's not as many of them. They're hidden by trees. They're in more remote locations where people aren't going as often. But no,
Cool.
there are plenty of trails on there.
Okay. Cool. And is this your full-time job?
It has become that. Yeah, I spend a lot of time on it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, do you have to do anything to supplement your wanderer habit?
I do some things here and there. I have some savings from a previous job, and I'm like getting better at covering wanderers' costs, and yeah, I'm having more profitable days. So,
Well, and do you have anybody else on staff, or is this a one-man show?
I have like some contractors that I work with here and there for some stuff, but it's pretty much me. Yeah.
So approximately how many users do you have, and where are they?
It's a little hard to count because people sign up and I process their data, but yeah, it just sort of depends on how you measure. In the thousands, the like 5,000 to 7,000 depends.
Okay.
Sometimes people just come and check it out, and
Okay.
then global pandemic hits and they got a lot of time to ride their bike, and then
Sure.
they come back. So,
Well, do you have a sense of where they are?
all over. Probably the biggest concentration of folks is in Northern Europe. A lot of Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, Finland, and then, I mean, the rest of Europe as well, but tons of folks up in that area. And then kind of scattered a lot throughout the US, and then a fair amount of folks down in Australia, New Zealand as well.
Cool.
So, and then the dude in first place I'm fascinated by him. I really want to talk to him. He's like almost entirely in Southeast Asia and like bikes through like southern China and Bangladesh and Laos. And yeah, I really want to know what.
Well, do you have the ability to reach out to him if you
Yeah,
want? I mean,
yeah.
you may not have the benefit of a common language, I guess. But
I mean, his name's Peter, so I think
okay.
he probably speaks. Yeah, but I'm just really curious about like, what are you doing, because it looks amazing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. So that's kind of, I guess, an interesting outcrop. So has there been any kind of semblance of a community of people that have emerged out of this and expressed desire to communicate with each other, or is it just a group of users who are kind of competing?
the one that I know of for sure, I think, is in Philadelphia, and I believe that they'll just kind of like, groups of folks will get together and go explore a new part of the city, and then like grab lunch afterwards or something like that. Yeah,
Well, that's cool. So I know it. So I'm a newer user myself, but I was wondering if you could speak to sort of the different membership levels that you have for Wanderer, like for if somebody comes and just starts a free account, and what they get with that versus what they get if they actually go with some paid membership.
Sure. So a lot of the like membership stuff around Wander is kind of driven around covering my own costs, and like a very big portion of my costs is in processing ride data. And so for free folks, I will just process your most 50 recent Strava rides. And so yeah, that's kind of the like basic free member offering. And then there are some other features on the site, like that you can download a map that you could load onto your Garmin or Wahoo, and it'll highlight places that you've never been before.
Oh, cool.
And I had some folks ask me for this, and it wasn't really on my radar, but I built it, and it's surprisingly fun. It helps you sort of spontaneously explore. You'll be out somewhere and you'll just see this big red line come up on your Garmin. You're like, let's check it out. Like, why not?
Well, cool.
And so, yeah, so free users, you can try that out. You get a few maps to download. And yeah, if you sign up, $30 a year, then I'll process all your rides. You get unlimited maps. And then there are some more things that are going to be coming soon, which
Cool.
I hope to announce. Yeah.
All right. We'll have
see.
to stay tuned for that. I thought it might be fun just to and give people a sense of the site. If it's okay with you, what I'd like to do is share my screen and bring up my own account. Have you maybe provide some coaching, but kind of also talk about some features of the site. Does that sound okay to you? Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So this is my dashboard, and I haven't been doing as many new miles, but I'll say that when I first, I just signed up in March, and so this is an example of a ride. So I happen to live in the same neighborhood that I actually grew up in. I went out, with this app in mind. And this isn't a very big area. I mean, for this is only probably about a mile across this area.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, let me see if I can go out, and you can see that I've got some holes here, but let me see if I can go out and try to ride every street in my neighborhood. And what it really reminded me of is when I first started riding a bike as a kid. We would go out and we would just explore, trying, what's down this street or what's over this street. It really changes, I think, the way that you think about your riding. And something that is really interesting to me is that you've got this partnership. So I wanted to ask you a little about your partnership with Strava, because when I complete a ride in Strava, in my Strava account, I get a little notification, from Wandrer.earth about how many miles. So when I did this ride, it told me right there in Strava that I completed 4.32 new miles. So did you have to jump through any kind of hoops to get them to do that?
So that's the notification in Strava. Strava has what they call an API, like the ability for external applications to access your Strava data and do stuff with it. And so there's lots of other apps out there. There's like Bella Viewer and Stats Hunter and various cool things that are built sort of on Strava's platform. But the notification is really just adding some text into the ride description. Sometimes there's like another app out there called Klimat. I don't know how you pronounce it exactly, but it'll kind of automatically post in the temperature and humidity or wind speed or whatever that was happening when you were riding. I'm just kind of shoving that new mileage data into the ride description. And so then it can kind of pop up and people can see it. And you're like, oh yeah,
that's pretty cool. I've got an IT background myself, and I do a fair amount with data visualization and analytics. I've always been, interested in Strava data from the standpoint of just looking at the data, looking at the pictures, do some evaluation. And this has prompted a very different kind of way to think about your riding that I think most people are not used to, but certainly really appeals to me. So if I look, you can actually drill down.
Oh, yeah.
So this to me was like, yes, because I'm looking at Kentucky, and a lot of what I'm trying to do with my project is to promote Kentucky resources. And so, if I drill in here, not surprisingly, I actually live in central Kentucky. So not surprisingly, a lot of that is sort of painted blue. But one thing that Strava doesn't do very well, in my opinion, with sort of its base metrics, is kind of give you these geographic areas to kind of look at, and segment off. And your tool really does that really well. I love that I can look and see, okay, I've got, I've only ridden, in all that I'm trying to do, while that looks like a lot of blue to me, I've only ridden 1.629% of Kentucky.
There's a lot of roads in the world.
There's a lot of roads, so there's, at least in terms of, the map service that you're using, there's 95,570 total miles of Kentucky that I've actually could potentially explore.
Yeah.
So I really thought that was really cool. And I think other people who are, people who follow the Kentucky Cycling Project will like this type of functionality. But then you've got that extending, to regions, to countries, and ultimately to the world. You were talking about this leaderboard, and this site is wandrer.earth, by the way. Oh, here's the leaderboard, right? So you were talking about
and that's going to bring up the Kentucky
element.
Yeah, so that's going to bring up the Kentucky leaderboard.
Okay, cool. So I haven't looked at this before. So I'm number 18 out of the Kentuckians. That's not. I don't know how many users. You're going to tell me there's 18 users, but no,
we'll see. I don't know.
There's more, but that's really cool. So you can see. Wow. So there's 8 pages.
And this is of anyone that's ever biked ever in Kentucky. So you've got some people here that have biked a mile in Kentucky.
Gotcha.
Like
well, but they've got to be a Wanderer user, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So there's, I guess, at least like 199 folks who have come this way, and I'm number 18. Suddenly, I don't feel so bad.
Yeah. Will you click on number 1? I want to see what.
How do I click on it? Oh, so
just
Tom
on his
Hughes?
name there. Yeah. Just want to see.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's cool. So I didn't know you could do that. That's really cool. So you can see, so Tom Hughes, and actually that name looks semi-familiar to me. So Tom, if you're watching this, you're unknowingly being featured during this podcast. But man, that's impressive. That's really impressive.
My girlfriend, I think, gets kind of sick of this because I spend a lot of time looking at maps and looking at other people's maps. Oh, and it just gives me so much wanderlust. This person just biked the entire circumference of Taiwan. I could do that. That looks so cool.
Wow.
And so you see Tom's map here. And you're like, man, he's been on so many. He biked from Asheville to Frankfurt or something.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, that's really cool.
It's really the thing I like about the map too is that it's kind of privacy preserving also. I think you see where someone's been, but you don't know when they wrote it, and you have a general idea of where
I'm guessing this person probably lives in the Louisville area.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
but
that's really cool.
Yeah, to me it's important to be able to share this and see what other people have done, and share with other people what you've done, but still have kind of this you don't know when I did it, you don't know where I live, you don't know there's still kind of this sort of separation.
Well, this is really cool.
Weird,
I see. I had no idea, and so if there are other kind of cool things like this leaderboard thing, I think you could become a bit obsessive about. but just to look at him, you will see. Okay, he's done 5.3% of the state, and he's ridden a whopping 5,067 miles, unique miles.
It's there's kind of a fun story here. So what you're looking at here is Kentucky, and it's got 95,000 miles, and I have kind of 2 sort of different classes of area on the site. There's a big area like Kentucky, which is large enough to merit its own leaderboard. And then there's a smaller area, which on the site is just known as an achievement. And that's kind of your neighborhood. That doesn't need its own leaderboard because, you could just go ride it in a day and it would just be a leaderboard full of 100%. There's kind of a fuzzy line between what deserves its own leaderboard and what is just an achievement. How big does it have to be? And internally, I sort of have this thing of somewhere around 500 or 600 miles is kind of the cutoff. And so that pretty much covers every state in the US and most countries, and then most counties in the US. And someone was asking me, well, what's the smallest county? What's something that I could go just be the winner of? And so I'm like looking it up, and I'm like, all right, what's the smallest county? And I find one that has 10 miles of road in it. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Like this does not deserve its own leaderboard. And the more I dug into it, the more I was like, oh, like this absolutely deserves its own leaderboard because it's a county in Hawaii, and it's a former leper
Can you,
colony.
oh my goodness, can you tell me how to navigate there to look at it?
So,
Do I go to
um,
other areas, North America, I guess?
yeah, so it's not going to show up on yours because I don't
Okay.
think you've ridden in Hawaii.
No, I have not.
Um, I don't know if anyone's ridden there. I'd say we could try navigating there. If you go to the leaderboard in
Okay.
the top, and then
Okay.
try other areas in the United States,
Okay. Hawaii.
and then Hawaii. Yeah, see, it only has 4 counties there, and
Okay.
that means no one's ridden in this one. Um,
Okay.
I'm trying to remember the name of it. It starts with a W. It's like Y. Yeah, but no one's ridden there. But so this county has 10 miles in it. It's a former leper colony. There's no road to it. And so the way that you get there is either by boat or what has been described as a mule path. But I've heard that that was washed away recently with a storm. And you're not allowed to visit if you're under 16. And you can really, there's sort of a park there that you can like go visit with a guide, but you can't really go to the rest of it unless you've been formally invited. It's just, yeah, kind of just mind blowing to me. Like this, like really, like, so the leper colony was shut down in the 70s, and the government said, like, hey, you know, y'all can live here for the rest of your lives and, you know, have this beautiful Hawaiian spot to yourselves. But yeah, just like, I don't know, stuff about the world like that just kind of fascinates me. And
Yeah.
like, yeah, it has 10 miles, and they're going to be really hard 10 miles to get for anyone. So,
Well, cool.
yeah.
So there's leaderboards at all these different levels, at least, and you said all the way down to like even like a county level.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So if I wanted to go into the United States and go to Kentucky, I could basically see, you know, if there are other users in my county,
Yep.
and see that. Oh, now I'm up to number 3. Now I'm feeling pretty good about myself. And I've
Oh,
written,
yeah. Oh,
you know,
yeah.
30% of the county. Now,
29%.
Bruce. This is cool. So I can go out and
You and
look at,
Bruce are close. Yeah.
but I could go out and look at Bruce. He's done some impressive. So you get to see the county
Yeah.
designation there, and you can see
Those
all
are
the
some
writing he's done.
good long rides there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's cool. That's cool. So, are there any other kind of features that you would call out? I mean, I guess somebody could spend hours looking at this leaderboard functionality.
Well, so right now it's May 1st. And so that means the monthly challenge just ended. And so there's, yeah, just something that I run every month of like who got the most new miles in an area. Yeah, that's been interesting because it kind of favors new people. You know, if you've ridden a lot in an area, it's sort of harder to get new stuff because you have to go farther out. You have to hunt for it more. And so that's kind of a lesson that I've learned in running the site is like in the last week of the month, like don't touch anything because like people don't want their scores changing. They don't want anything updated or removed from the map database. Like,
So, how do you
because
see that information?
so if you go back to the leaderboard,
Okay.
It will have that column on the right, progress this month.
Okay, gotcha.
And you know, since it's the first of the month, like for most people, it's
And if I click on this, will it sort it somehow?
It will, yeah,
okay.
But it is probably still just very, very low.
Sure. Yeah, brand new, but he's been out and ridden 8.9 miles of new roads, right?
Yeah.
So this is someone, and I don't know this gentleman, so I'm now intrigued. I mean, he's probably a local person. But so Eddie, if you're out there, hello, you know. But this is it's pretty cool. He's obviously, I would think, kind of motivated by this way of thinking. You know, I want to go out and I want to explore, you know, and wander.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there's a concept of like points on the site, in that it's kind of to give you a little extra motivation to sort of that like not all miles are created equal. I have a point system set up to give you extra motivation to start a new place. So if you get to like 25% of a town or a neighborhood, then you get a bonus for that. And you get subsequent bonuses for 50 and 75%, but they're smaller. And then you get a big bonus at 90%. So kind of to nudge people to like go start a new place and finish off ones that you've done as well.
You're talking about points. So I mean, I can see what my total points are, but is there some way to get more detail around what you're talking about?
Yeah. So it's basically you get a point per mile that you've ridden. And then for whatever achievements that you've gotten, like if you've ridden 100% of your neighborhood, you'll get a bonus for that on top of it. And then for any of the monthly challenges, it's the number of points that you win. If you win that month is basically the number of people that you beat.
How does a user know about the challenges?
In the top right of your screen there, it says one more rider before it starts. So we need like a minimum of 10 people to ride in a place. But so if you do other areas in Kentucky, in the top left there's that.
Yeah.
And you could just do Kentucky at the top.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so 66 people have ridden today since it's May 1st. And so if you were to win the monthly challenge, you'd get 66 points.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then this goes all the way up to the whole Earth level where, you'll win 3,000 something points for that. But
so is the leaderboard is based on points then, right?
You can sort by either. Miles? You can sort by points. You can sort by percentage of an area.
If we go out here and we want to look at the world,
probably the easiest way is to go to your dashboard.
Okay.
And then just click leaderboard from there. That'll show you the like Earth leaderboard.
Very good. All right, here's Peter that you were talking about.
Yeah, Peter. Fascinating Peter. I want to know about him.
And so I'm curious as to his map. Wow. Okay. Wow.
Doesn't that look amazing?
Yeah, he's been some interesting places.
Everything he's done is
he's made his way across Europe.
I want to
Wow.
I want to go bike
throughout
across
the UK. Wow. Oh my goodness. And then he's really super concentrated in Asia, South Asia here, Southeast Asia.
Yeah. I think his Taiwan route is like, oh man, like I gotta go do that.
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness. And he's been Japan. This guy is a world traveler.
I know. I'm so jealous. It looks so cool.
Wow. Well, that's really cool. Is there anything else that you want to show us here on the site that might be worth looking at?
So you've got the rides there. You can see all of your past rides. The big map might be kind of cool to look at too.
Okay.
And if you click the like location button, the third one down.
This one?
Yeah, we can kind of zoom in on where you are. And the big map has, well, we'll see. Sometimes, there we go. The thing I like about the big map is that it'll show all of the like areas. So if you zoom out from there, you could click the location button again.
Yeah, and what's interesting, I'll just say that's not actually where I live, but it's within a few miles.
Yeah,
so it's kind of cool.
It's
but probably where my IP, my internet provider. Actually, that would be where they're located. So that's interesting.
Yeah, some of it. If you're on like a laptop or something, your location data can be a little iffy. But if you kind of zoom out and sort of drag around, it'll sort of automatically highlight areas like Frankfurt, and you got something down there in the bottom right.
You talking about like this?
Like that sort of, midway
that's
there.
Midway, yeah.
And so it could be kind of a cool way to see like what are the different areas around me.
Yeah.
And if you like click on midway there, it'll bring up a little like,
that's interesting.
And then if you hover over that progress bar there, it'll show you like, okay, like just kind of a nice overview.
Yeah, like I could actually,
that,
I never thought about doing that, but it wouldn't be too hard to to cover midway, you know?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. You just sort of,
interesting.
yeah, just a different way of looking at
Yeah.
cycling.
Well, that's cool. And I want to give a shout out to one of my riding buddies. His name is Jacob, and he first clued me into Wanderer, and then we were, sharing stuff back and forth, kind of trying to figure things out. And I think he's going to be super stoked to see this interview and get more tuned into some of the features here. This is cool.
Thanks, Jacob. Yeah.
Well, very good. So in addition to the website, which is wandrer.earth, are there other social media channels where folks can connect to you?
There's a Strava group where I'll do like feature announcements, stuff like that. And I have an Instagram page where I post random. Both of them are accessible from the bottom of the page if you're on Wanderer.
Okay, very good. And is there anything else that I haven't asked you about that you'd like to share with the Kentucky cycling audience?
Yeah, just get out there and go places you've never been. It's interesting how like it sort of is attractive to different people in different ways. Like some folks are very completionists, I guess. Like they want like absolutely everything. I'll get emails from them about like, the last like 5 meters of this dead end didn't count. And like, I definitely have some improvements to make in my algorithm, but like some people like really care about that. And my algorithm is not perfect all the time. And then other people, I like the dude in either second or third place in Atlanta, he's probably at like 70% done. He's like, I never do dead ends. Like they just mess up my flow. I don't want to do them. Like, yeah, it's just kind of like some people, I think it's this sort of like meditative kind of like doing a jigsaw puzzle. Like you're just sort of filling in the pieces. And then for others, yeah, much more of just kind of a way to mix up their riding. And that's something that like we see a lot in Atlanta too, is like there's like established group ride routes that people do all the time and they're safe and they know them. But then you'll go off in these neighborhoods that you've never been to and they're like super hard and they're like crazy hilly and like they're just as much of a like workout and training ride, the well-known ones that like everyone's doing.
So you kind of dangled the carrot a little bit and you alluded to some new features which may be coming. So if we're interested in that, how are we going to learn about that when that becomes time?
I mean, I've been working on it for a long time, so as soon as I got something good, I'm going to shout it from the hilltops because it's, yeah. Like I'm trying to make routes kind of the big thing. A lot of people ride the same thing over and over again. And so I want to give them some other options easily.
All right. Well, Craig, I really appreciate your time. This has been a lot of fun to learn about this, and I hope this will encourage some folks from the Kentucky cycling audience to get out there and give me some more competition on the Kentucky Leaderboard.
Yeah. Thanks for offering to interview me. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much.
All right. Bye, Nathan.
Thanks again to Craig Durkin from Wanderer for being a guest in the Zoom interview series. If you enjoyed this content, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And be sure to stay tuned for more Zoom interviews in the coming weeks.